everyone, this is Mrs. Harrington, and I'm going to show you how to use the number line to add. This is one of the strategies that students learn very early on, and we kind of carry through, and it gets, a little bit more complicated as the numbers get bigger. The biggest point that I try and teach them when they're using the number line is to use landmark numbers. It's going to keep them from making mistakes, not only when we're adding on, but when they're counting back and they're doing similar strategies on the number line with subtraction. Um, so when I say landmark numbers, what I mean is using the nearest 10 or the nearest 100 as jumps. So when you're adding 28 plus 63, the first thing that I would show students to do is to start with the bigger addend, because you'll do more work if you're jumping up 63 than if you're jumping up 28. So we're going to start at this side of the number line with 63, and then all we have to do is count on 28. There are many different ways that your child might choose to do this. None of them are wrong. Some of them will be faster than others. What I tend to encourage is to start with the larger place value to add on. That's supposed to be an arrow. I don't know if it looks like one. Okay, and then so some children might count on by 20 altogether, which is what I would do. If they have more difficulty counting on that way, they might break it down and do 10 and then do another 10. So 63 plus 20 is 83. And now they have to count on 8. Some students might do this as one big chunk of 8, and maybe they're comfortable doing that and can get the correct answer. For others that it might be more difficult, they can count on in smaller chunks. We do a lot of making 10 in the earlier grades, or they do a lot of making 10 in the earlier grades. So it should be easy for them to see that if they add 7 more, then they can get to the next 10, which is 90. And then if they add 1 more, that'll be a total of 8 that they needed to add. So that takes them to 91. So I kind of encourage this stop in here, particularly because when they're subtracting, that stop is a little more important. They tend to make more mistakes if they don't make that nearest 10 jump when they're adding the ones. So there you go. That's one way to add 28 plus 63. Now, when you're adding numbers in the hundreds, it's the same thing. Again, starting with the larger addend. A lot of students don't do that if the larger addend comes second. Is it going to be wrong if they do it the other way? No, but I try and tell them they're going to put themselves through more work, and they're going to have to make more jumps that way. So I always try to encourage them to start with that larger addend. And now we're going to add on 214. So I would start with the 200 plus 200. I do put this plus sign here when I'm adding on the number line, just because we're not always going to be adding, and it kind of is just a clue to me that that's what I did if I go back to check my work. So 347 plus 200 is 547. Now I'm going to add on 10 more. So 547 plus 10 is 557. And now I have to add on 4 more. So I know that if I add 3 more, I'll get to my next 10, which is 560. And then if I add 1 more, I'll get to my final answer, which is 561. So there you have it. That's using the number line to add. I hope you found this helpful.